Well, let's start as you did in the bulletin with Syria. When I come back with the international papers at 9:10, we'll be looking at a lot of tributes, especially to the Sunday Times journalist Marie Colvin, who was killed yesterday. She's on the front page of a lot of the international press. But here in Libération, the French paper, they've started with their own correspondent who was with her in the press camp in Homs, who's written his own story from the hell of Homs, as he puts it on the front page. He talks of a city which has been cut off from electricity and basic food supplies, of walking for 14 kilometres with women from Homs and crawling through mud to try and get basic essential food into that town to help feed their children. Really extraordinary, atrocious stories of suffering from that city. And they say in the paper's editorial that while, of course, we mustn't forget, we mustn't put two Western journalists on a higher level than the thousands of Syrians who've died, because obviously all of their lives were equally important. Those two deaths do emphasise the fact that the Assad army is deliberately targeting foreign journalists so that there are no witnesses to what people are suffering there in Homs. And in the editorial, they say we've got to salute their work. Without them, without journalists who are brave enough to go into Syria, despite the fact that they're banned from doing so by the government, we would have very little idea at all of what's going on there. And they do say that for those of the people who think that news is easy to get hold of or that it's all available on the internet, we should maybe take this moment to realise that some news takes real bravery and sacrifice to bring to people.
Now, back here in France, President Nicolas Sarkozy has just given a big TV interview. What did the papers make of that then?
Well, at least according to Le Figaro, their candidate is back in the game. Their headline this morning is Sarkozy and Hollande, the gap is closing. They've got a poll on that front page which puts Nicolas Sarkozy at 27% of first-round voting intentions and Hollande only just above at 28%. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about a 10-point gap. So they seem to think they've got evidence that Sarkozy is improving. He's gaining, particularly at the expense of Marine Le Pen, who seems to be dropping down in those polls. Now, he gave that big TV interview last night, and Le Figaro said he's managing to focus the debate on the topics that he wants to talk about, essentially competitivity, unemployment, immigration. He made some big announcements, especially on the employment question last night, saying he was suggesting a tax change which would mean an extra €1,000 a year in income for people earning less than €1,300 a month. That is to say, people earning only just above the minimum wage. He'd cut their income taxes so they make a bit more money. The paper says there's 7 million people in that situation, so they hope that might be 7 million more votes for Nicolas Sarkozy.
Moving on to Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who many thought would be taking part, of course, in that presidential election. He was released from custody yesterday.
Yes, here he is on the front page of Le Parisien. They've got him after the investigation, after the inquiry, the judge. They say he might be facing the judge next. That is to say, he's expected to be charged with being involved in the running of this prostitution ring based around the Hotel Carton in Lille, and also perhaps with corruption offences, because it seems that the other men who were running this prostitution ring may have used public money in spending on those prostitutes. His line of defence, as the paper repeats, is that he did not know that the women in what he calls libertine soirees were prostitutes, and that he had no idea how they were organised or paid for. Now, the paper says that didn't go down terribly well with prosecutors, who will probably want to charge him.
Now, from politicians to voters or former politicians, L'Humanité is looking at France's young people.
Yes, their headline here is Young People, the Thirst for Living, but inside they say that young people have become the precarious generation who have less hope for the future than ever before. They interview some fairly depressing individual cases on the inside. The 24-year-old master's graduate who's just lost a job in a grocery and can't find another one. The law graduate who's working in McDonald's, those sort of cases. And they say young people are facing a bleaker future than ever.
Tough times for them indeed. All right, thank you very much, Elena, for that look at the French press. And thank you for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24. All the latest headlines coming up with Lorna Shattuck in just a moment.
Live from our studio, a debate on the subject of the day with experts, newsmakers and observers. For political or economical issues and questioning society, join us for analysis and in-depth talk. The Debate, Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Paris time on France 24.